Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. So you see that there's a mural here that connects to the Detroit Institute of Arts and other things, right? The city of Berkeley. It's an interesting mural. Let's see if we can get a better view of it here. It reminds me of my war on poverty plan that I want to talk about a little bit here. So there's a 7-point plan, and I have a Michigan version of it, California version of it, but I have a federal version. It's really meant for the federal level here. And it's designed to basically end poverty over time with other plans helping out. It would end homelessness, it would make sure everyone was fed over time, what have you. And it's very affordable. For example, if somebody's worth $3 million, they would probably pay maybe $8,000 a year on top of the existing taxes that they're paying already. And so in 10 years, that's $80,000. In 20 years, it's $160,000. But in 20 years, they probably would have increased their worth, because it's not very hard to make money when you have money, to maybe $4 or $5 million anyway. So it's not that big of a deal, right? It's not that much of a tax burden. There's also vice taxes, right? 5% on marijuana, on alcohol, on cigarettes, what have you. And keep in mind, you can't tax cigarettes enough, so to speak, because they kill 500,000 people a year. And substance abuse creates quite the burden on the healthcare system. Some estimates have it as high as $700 billion a year plus. So if we do things to reduce the substance abuse, that's always a good thing. It also helps save lives. And it helps encourage people to do what is right, and to do what is right from their heart, and to maintain the greatest commandment for those of you who are religious, to love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your being. To actually care for each other. Again, I've brought up many times that the word care is a play on words for C-R. So to actually care about people, to actually help people, to actually love them, and to understand what their problems are. Substance abuse, people want to commit suicide because the system is so unfair. So if we end homelessness and we pass the affordable housing plan, then that should make it so people are more comfortable and people are less inclined to harm themselves. And the self-harm and the suicide also creates a burden on the system. So does crime. There's a reason why hope rhymes with dope, right? Rhyme and reason. If you remove the hope from society, people are more likely to turn to drugs like fentanyl and meth and pharmaceuticals, what have you. So when you look at the War on Poverty plan, it brings in $220 billion the first year, $180 billion a year after that, plus the $36 billion from vice taxes and luxury taxes. And we could discuss 1% junk food tax to kind of push people away from that, what have you. But one way or another, it would build lots of rehabs. Part of the War on Poverty plan is also hiring 50,000 more police officers, okay, and keeping them paid and putting them where it matters most. And I urge President Trump and the Congress to pass the plan. I urge them to at least spend $10 billion more a year to hire more police officers, one way or another. There's also job programs, $5 billion a year. So say that, muggings cost people $5 billion a year. Why don't we just have job programs to the tune of $5 billion a year? It wouldn't solve all the problem, but it would solve a lot of the problem, as people would just, instead of robbing somebody, go to a job for half an hour, or 2 hours. Jobs that they know will turn a blind eye to their drug use, what have you. It's pretty straightforward. And so there's also $5 billion a year for startup companies to help people compete, to help people create new businesses. So when conservatives, for example, make the argument that rich people would just leave if you raise taxes, well, we have startup programs that already include a higher degree of taxes, right? So the part of the plan is that the startup programs would include higher tax rates for people who are part of those programs, in exchange for giving them opportunities they otherwise wouldn't have. It's a brilliant idea because it would be supported by the people, as people want to see those programs succeed. Because what is the point of having a society that's like a dog-eat-dog society? A society where people get thrown under the bus. Obviously a much better economy, a much better philosophy, A much better atmosphere is one which people help each other out and they scramble to effectively and efficiently solve societal ills instead of turning a blind eye to them. That's part of what it means by loving each other, by helping each other, by live and let live, right? And so they're not letting people live because the economy not just kills, it gets rid of hope. It takes away rights. People are less likely to stand up for what's right. They're more hesitant to stand up for what's right when the economy doesn't support their constitutional rights. This is supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave, not the land of kleptocrats who are choking people to death, figuratively speaking, who are squeezing the life out of them, who are squeezing the rights out of them, who are denying them the right to protest for right, the right to organize for right, the right to say what's right. They're censoring them on the corporate level. So we need the housing program for the homeless, right? $40 billion the first year. We could build 400,000 apartment units or well over 1 million tiny homes and end homelessness within a year if we build fast enough, we build effectively enough and efficiently enough. We have college professors help us with the models. These are the things that people need to see. These are the things that people need to do, and they need to do them from their heart. That's what makes a good atmosphere, what makes a good nation is when people love each other and they do things out of love. Not because they're obligated to, not from a false sense of love, but from true love. From morally precise love, love derived from justice. So when we look at these plans, they address these problems that we should have addressed a long time ago. There are thousands of children in the streets. There are like 800,000 homeless people. The top 50% has $165 trillion. You can cry communism all you want, but $220 billion the first year and $180 billion a year after that is not a massive redistribution of wealth. It is a very small redistribution of wealth. It's a humane and compassionate necessity. It is necessary for us to do this to help people out. It shouldn't be optional. In order for people to have their rights, in order for people to understand the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, in order to fulfill the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, we need to pass plans that are like this or better. In every state, if the federal government won't pass this plan. I'm kind of having a little trouble speaking, but I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. If a little kid ran up to you and said, why won't you give him his constitutional rights? Why is there no hope for the future? What are you going to say? That you don't want to pass the war on poverty plan and give him his rights? Because you're afraid? In what's supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave? Because you don't want him to have his freedom in the land of the free and the home of the brave? Freedom shouldn't just be for people who are free to be dumb within certain boundaries. Freedom should also be for the righteous. Freedom should also be for those who care about people, those who love people, those who obey God and submit to God with all their heart, those who are scrambling to find themselves and pursue happiness. I urge you all to consider the War on Poverty plan and to organize for it with or without me. I urge you all to care about each other enough to scramble for a just economy. The American economy is one of the biggest enemies of the American people, and communism isn't the answer. And insane and immoral crony capitalism isn't the answer. And false definitions of socialism isn't the answer. The answer is a moral economy. Forget the labels and focus on the idea. A moral economy where everyone's housed and fed, where the rich are still rich, for better or worse. That's the first step we need to take here. Where the vulnerable and the susceptible are taken care of. Where the disabled are nurtured and cared for. I urge you all to pass the War on Poverty plan and to do so from the bottom of your hearts.